don't love the wide angle.
Why? Is it because it's right in front of you?
Yeah, it's like really wide.
Yeah, but you don't know what it looks like. You haven't
Yeah, I
looked
do. I
at-
can see it.
Oh, over there. Don't worry about it. It's just sometimes it turns on. I might find another place for it. We'll see. But wide angle is important for the dynamic feel.
I know, but wide angle, it's exactly what it sounds like. Wide. Makes you look wide.
You're not wide.
Thank you.
You're in frame proportionally. How's your day?
You know what?
Uh-oh.
For the last actually all day, I've been feeling like I'm on the verge of having a panic attack. And I have no idea why. I don't feel like overly anxious or like stressed, but I have like that shortness of breath. I have like the chest pain a little bit. Or is it this heart attack I'm describing?
You think you're describing a cardiac?
I have like the jitters.
Yeah. Do you think it's what you had when we were in our first home? I remember you had your dad's.
No, that was a panic attack.
That was a panic attack?
Oh, yeah. I think I was trying to figure out what it was. So when was that?
That was probably, 7 years ago? 8 years ago?
Yeah.
8? Yeah, 8.
So like I had the whole, because I had never had a panic attack before. So I was like sitting and I had that like, my heart started beating really fast. And all of a sudden, like I felt really clammy and my chest started hurting. And the more like I thought about it, the worse I felt. So I thought it was like, because my dad has a heart condition where, what is it, tachycardia?
Yeah, SVT.
Something like that. Yeah, SVT.
Supraventricular tachycardia.
So
it beats like 250 beats per minute.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, it has to be that. And then I had it again and I realized I think somebody maybe said like, that sounds like a panic attack.
Somebody told you that?
And I'm like, I've never had one before. And I always thought panic attacks are just people making it up. Like
I always thought that same. And I kind of feel really bad that that's what I used to think.
I know, because it really, I mean, because of it's like mental, your body has the same reaction of like probably having a heart attack or like close, because it's like your body thinks that that's what's going on based on like whatever you're going through in your mind.
Yeah, it wasn't until like because there's some people that you're just acquaintances with and you're like, all right, they're just overreacting. They just need to maybe work out or do some difficult stuff or whatever. And then some of the friends that I highly respect, they would tell me how they would have like panic attacks. And I was like, oh, these are like real things. These are like debilitating things. So it's completely out of your control. And it's
the weird thing is like some people learn like their triggers of like the panic attacks. The second time I had it, I remember I think Becca was like a baby and Jack was like 2 and I was home alone, and I remember I texted you and I was like, something's wrong. I think I'm having like the heart thing again. But then like what caused that panic attack, the trigger was actually like stomach pain. So I had this like sharp pain all of a sudden shoot up in my stomach.
From 0 to 100.
Just sharp pain. And then it like went away. And that's like what triggered my panic attack. Isn't that weird? It was like a physical reaction to a pain. Versus I think most of the time my panic attacks are triggered by stress, lack of sleep. Yeah.
Well,
more external.
Is today the last time you had the symptom, or did you have the symptom like in the last couple of days?
No, just today. And I think it's lack of sleep because I went to bed so late.
No, you did. You were a party animal.
I know.
You did a girls thing last night. You want to tell people what time the Ring camera notified me that somebody's pulling up in the driveway?
That was funny.
You want to tell them? What time was it?
Just a normal hour.
What time was it? Well, it wasn't 11 or 12.
Or 1.
Oh boy, not even 1.
I think I came home at like 2:05 or something.
Yeah. That's exactly when you came home.
And I was like, I'm gonna regret this.
What
so
were
hard
you guys? You grown women.
Well, first
what
of
are you
all,
guys doing?
like, then the girls' night didn't start till 8:30, 9-ish, because like most people, or like it was just a couple girls, but a lot of them didn't show up till like 9:30. So it's like you're just getting started at like 9:30.
Okay.
You're not gonna stay there till 10 and leave.
Yeah.
And then we
I'd
just can't ever stop talking. Yeah. Huh?
If it was me, I'd stay probably 10:30 and then 11 bounce.
A hard stop.
Because I can already imagine how much yawning I'd be doing.
I wasn't yawning till like the end, which is crazy. Yeah.
Jeez.
But yeah, by like 1 I didn't even notice. Like somebody was like, "Oh, what time is it?" And somebody's like, "Oh, it's 1:20." And we're like, and of course we talked for another half an hour after that.
That's so you. That's so you girls. Like, because it's like, okay, so if you and I have reservations at like 5 and it's 4:15 and we know that it takes to get to your parents this time to drop off the kids, maybe if you get every green light, you're like, we might just make there exactly on time. And what do? You're always like, hey, it just like starts mingling. And I go, do you not have a sense of urgency?
It's so hard because it's like, I don't know. You're not like that.
Not
you could
at
like
all.
have a hard stop.
Oh, hard stop for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like with just anybody, I'm always like, there's so much to say.
Kyle and I will even like, when I'll be like, hey, Kyle, I have to do a podcast, let's say at 2 or something like that. Instead of stopping at 3, I'll stop at like, 15 minutes before.
To give yourself some prep time. Yeah.
I don't like running late to things.
And I'm a procrastinator and I wait till the last
So you
minute.
girls all went, what? It's 1:20? That's so late. All of you have kids. All of you have responsibilities. And then you go, so anywho, the other day.
We all get up. We all walk to like, put our stuff like
towards the exit of the
Well, no,
house.
we were like cleaning up. We were like putting all the hors d'oeuvres away.
You're helping clean up.
And then we stand in the kitchen for another 10 minutes because somebody says something and we are like, la, 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 la. And then by the front door, we have another, 10-minute window of time where we're saying our goodbyes and talking.
I would be so furious. You were saying, you did that to me too. I think first of all, every year I dread New Year's with you because I always want to go home and you want to keep partying.
It's the one day a year you have to stay up.
Yeah, I do stay up till 12:01, and then there's a hard stop. Fun is reserved on New Year's from 8:39, and it has a hard stop at 12:05.
And I want it to last till about 2.
And yeah, I get the stuff from like people who don't have kids, but when you have kids, I'm like, it's not necessarily that you were like neglecting, but I was like, the toll is gonna take on you.
It's more like the regret you'll feel in the morning when you're like, oh, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
But it was like so fun, and I'm like, we had such a good time, but I feel like a zombie today, and so I think the lack of sleep because and then I got home.
We cannot talk about sleep anymore on this podcast.
I know, but okay, I won't talk about sleep. But I got home. This is the last thing I'll say. And I checked on
Harper.
the kids because, of course, the last like 3 hours, all we were talking about was like true crime and like stories about kids being abducted. No, like abductions and like kidnappings. And of course, like I get in my car and I'm like, somebody's in my car. They're just waiting in the back seat. They somehow got in my car. They're going to stab me while I'm driving.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Kyle, do you have that feeling of like let's say it's really dark, you get in the car and the car's parked in a weird place. And do you ever have that small like idea of somebody's in the back? I don't think so. Not even the slightest idea.
You do? I do.
Every once in a while I'll do. And
it's like you get this weird feeling. I was like, well, maybe like my mind's trying to tell me something because there is somebody back there. And
it's like a certain time, like not like
not always. It's like when it's really late. You're in a place where there's nobody around, like a empty parking lot.
Yeah,
that's when it gets.
And I don't know why. And it's not. I don't know. Maybe the idea was presented to me from like some movies or something like that. But
it's a movie thing for sure.
When you live in a safe neighborhood, you're like, I had a few hunting trips where we'd have to leave like 4:00 in the morning to get first light and all that stuff, and I'd be getting my truck ready, and while it's idling, and I'd get in the back and be like, "What if somebody snuck in the back?" And I like that.
It's open.
Yeah,
I know. I had that yesterday.
Which is the silliest thing in the world.
I'm driving and I'm like, they're just gonna pull it on knife right now and just slit my throat.
Until it actually does. It's you know what it's like? It's like it's the same irrationality as you go to a funeral. Or I had this when I was working at the hospital, and there, somebody passed away, and we get the body prepped for the mortician to come in and all that stuff to take him. The person is completely still, right? And there's still this weird idea somewhere in the back. They're gonna wake up or go woo, and scare the crap out of you.
It's just this like
at a haunted house kind of
thing. Or
thing.
like when you're a kid and it's dark and like nobody's downstairs and you're running up the stairs and you're sprinting because you're thinking somebody's gonna come get you from behind.
I think more people can relate to that than any of these other parts. I think I actually saw a meme out there.
There's a meme. There's a TikTok about it.
Walking up your stairs from your basement as if you're being chased by a killer. Everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody
There's
has
something
it.
about it because you can't see behind you as you're going up. There's this
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, I felt that yesterday. I was like, or there's that whole. I don't remember if you remember this, but there was like a period of time where this stuff was going around that like watch when you are like in a parking lot and you park, go to the store, come back. Always like look under your car because there's like people who hide under there, and they like as you go into your car, they'll either like grab you or like cut your Achilles, and that's you'll just like bleed out and die. You don't remember that?
No.
There was like a whole thing going around about it.
No.
Always look under your car every time you go back to your car after going to the store, especially at night. And now I'm like,
silly thing.
what if somebody's on my car?
Why do you guys do this? Like, it's like with me, I enjoy a nice, maybe like mild, scary movie. And
it's the same reason. It's
yeah,
like
but I do
the same reason people love
one a year. But you guys like this is like porn for you guys. Like this is like lady porn.
No, it's the opposite because it's so scary. I think it's like
No, that's what I mean. Is like it gets you guys. It riles you guys up.
not in a good way though.
Yeah, but it's still like it's like a self-destructive kind of thing.
Yeah, it is because the more we talked about it, I'm like, man, I don't watch my kids enough when they're at the playground. And I kept like, running these scenarios through my head because we're all talking about, these kids who people walk up to them and they almost got kidnapped.
Do you guys think that you're trying to convince yourself saying, no, the more we know, the more these stories we hear, the more prepared we are for the possibilities?
Sometimes they think that. But then it's like almost worse because you're always thinking about it, and it could be like you're thinking about it too much and giving you too much anxiety and too much worry. Are you going to be like sheltering your kids?
I do think that I think not obviously I don't want to generalize, but for the most part I believe that women have that desire to watch these true crime stuff or listen to the true crime stuff than guys do. And I don't know the reason why, but I think the inclination might be something to do with you guys are far more in danger than we are. Right? Meaning like
maybe
not like
we want to be like aware. Like
you're always I think I actually heard this. There was a conversation about women in self-defense and the whole idea where they were at a conference and they asked guys, when's the last time you felt not safe? Like that your life was in danger. Mm-hmm. And the majority of the guys would be like, I don't know. I don't think I felt like that. Can't recall. And then they would ask the women, and the women would be like, yesterday, today, driving here. It's like where I parked, how dark it was. Yeah. Like all these. So you guys are always the vulnerable ones versus the guys, yes, they're stronger and weaker guys. But for the most part, I think guys don't get preyed on as much as women do.
Women and children, yeah.
All right. So I wonder if that has something to do with.
Maybe. It's almost like
but then the fact that you want to listen to and watch stuff like that, that's the part that's more complicated for me to understand.
It's just, to me, I like listening to it because it's super interesting.
Yeah, but so are like aliens and
yeah,
and
ghosts
and ghosts.
Yeah. I guess in a way, it's like watching documentaries. It's It's like interesting because this has happened, mm-hmm. and you're like, I want to know like how it was resolved.
So you're saying alien stuff did not happen? Is that what you're
saying? No, I never said that.
By the way, did you see, Kyle, the Pentagon released 1,500 pages of declassified alien stuff to one of the Posts, publishing company? I don't know if there's a website you can Google it.
Yeah, I'll have to read it this week.
Some reading material for you.
You should start a book club. So stuff like that. Okay, so another great example, right? So you have government stuff related to this whole like super terrestrial kind of thing, right? So you can kind of put it in the category of like somewhat
super terrestrial. Is that like a superhuman extraterrestrial?
Yes, califragilistic expialidocious. So why are you not fascinated with that if that's quote unquote documentary kind of style?
I don't know. I can't tell you.
So no, okay. Now since we're on this topic, you know how some of these like Ted Bundy and a lot of very famous
I guess to me, I want to know why people do the things they do.
Oh, I have an answer for you. Now I know why. If that's where your intent is to figure out why people do that, I think I know the answer to that. I heard it from Jordan Peterson. He said this. He goes, the reason why there's more women and more female psychiatrists than there are male psychiatrists, and why more female nurses than male nurses, things like that, is that women want to help people and be around people, or understand people, people, and that comes from more of like that caretaker background, versus guys don't, and therefore.
Yeah, I think that's why, because almost every time I listen to it, I want to know what caused this person to go down this path and start murdering people, or like what happened in their life to make them do that, because that's not normal, you know? And so it's like, that's what interests me, is like that, the psychology behind it, I guess.
Jordan Peterson, I think he put it this way. He says, well, women are into people and men are into things. Meaning like sports and stats and how things are put together and built. Aliens. They're not people. So that kind of makes more sense why your desire to. Now let's caveat off of it a little bit, where it's, you know how these like famous psycho killers, Bundy, Green River Killer, all these other people, they would have women who are like almost like their groupies, right? Who, when these guys would go to jail, they're writing to them, like there's just almost like a romantic desire.
That is so weird.
Is it because they're trying to help them and be like,
Probably.
I bet you he sleeps with me one time, and I'll get the psycho killer out of him.
Yeah. He'll never want to kill again after me. After I get to him.
Yeah.
Probably. I can't understand that part of it, to be honest with you, because it's like, I want to know why they did the things they did, but to have people, that's just weird.
It's kind of funny that the more we're breaking this down to understand female and male psyche, it's like if you hear one of your girlfriends who's having a divorce, or maybe somebody's cheated on somebody, you guys go, what happened? And you guys like drool over the details, versus a guy's like, hey man, we're getting divorced. You're like, oh man, that sucks.
Anyway, do you want to go get a beer?
Yeah. And then we also kind of,
that's so true. Yeah. It's like you need to understand the whole story and every detail and the way it intertwines and the way it works together. Totally true.
You guys are solving mysteries. I can imagine your girls' night is like if I was to walk in.
We bring in like the book of like.
No, you have
the board,
and you have the red string attached to different photos and
documents and text. We're gonna borrow your
together my corkboard. How everything ties
Here
together.
we go, girls.
Let's solve.
We have like, I print out pictures of like the.
You guys are the Scooby-Doo clan. What's the Scooby-Doo team's
Mystery Machine?
Well, the Mystery Machine, but did they? Because their whole thing was they're solving crimes. Well, so what did they have a name for their business? Like, were they or like?
Something gang. Mystery gang.
Mystery gang could be Mystery gang.
I can't remember. It wasn't anything like that cool.
Okay, well,
I would rather be like Sherlock something.
The Sherlock chicks.
That's good.
The Sherlock chicks.
Can't wait to tell them about this. They're gonna love it.
So speaking of crazies, so there's two very
crazies,
two or maybe three. This is again understanding like the female psyche in the midst of all these. I think there's two very popular documentaries, maybe three. Maybe I'm missing one. There's the Tinder Swindler, and there is the Bad Vegan.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and then there's the other one, Inventing Anna,
no,
which is, it's not a documentary, but they made it. It's based on a true story, but they made it into like a series, like a movie series almost.
By the way, I keep hearing a lot of good things about the Inventing Anna. Like,
you haven't seen it?
I've
Watch
not.
it.
You told me about
it's
it
good,
first.
yeah.
But then I keep hearing it mentioned a lot across all these.
It's because if you know her story, like it's. I went back and like researched, as you like to say. I went back and like Googled her and all if this was true. And some of the stuff in the movie or in the series, like they like make up a few things, I think, to fluff it up a little bit. But she really did do a lot of the things that the series. Like.
So what are some of the things that she did?
So this girl, Russian, born in Russia, moved to Germany. Was like raised there, I think, mostly. So she was like spoke both languages. And like she ended up coming to the States at some point. Basically, the story is she was like no one, but made everybody around her, the elite people of New York City, believed that she was like the wealthiest person and had a massive trust fund from her father back in Germany, and she like fooled everybody, swindled them. But in that sense, she would tell people like, oh yes, my trust fund. But in the meantime, she would get like loans out or tell people, oh, I'll pay you back or whatever. I'm waiting for my wire transfer to come in. That's why I made the joke, I think it was on my stories, when Harper put the glasses on, because she has these big glasses she always wears. And her line, the whole like series is like, do you take wire transfers?
So how would
she would go to a hotel, stay there for like 20 days. And instead of like, somehow she never put like a card down as like a, what do they called it?
not a deposit.
Like a hold or whatever. They take your card. They have to.
Credit card on file, yeah.
They get, I guess all these times she would like somehow weasel out of giving her card for them to hold. And they ended up like, she was like staying there for free. Then they would give her like the balance and she would just like never pay it. Mm-hmm. And so she did that like to so many people and so many, and then she tried to get like a loan out on the pretenses that she was waiting for her trust fund to come through, and she wanted to start this like art, what was it? It was like an art studio kind of thing. It was like this big historical building in the middle of New York City.
Yeah, big deal, right?
Big deal. And she was like, I want this building for my like, because I'm an entrepreneur, for my like whole thing I'm planning. And she ended up getting like, I think at least to start, $100,000 loan from like a well-known bank.
Yeah.
Somehow, yeah. So she was like the ultimate swindler in terms of fooling people who had so much money. Mm-hmm.
So
believing her that she could. The funding
The funding came strictly from her borrowing money and applying for loans and never paying back.
Yeah, and it was always based on I'm just waiting for my dad. My trust fund's gonna come through. It's gonna come through. It's just taking forever because it's so much money that the wire transfer is gonna take like a week. Mm-hmm. And so she would just like make up these stories, and it like nothing ever went through. Obviously.
And she's borrowing from rich people, or she's borrowing from banks?
Both.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So she would like eat dinner and be like, here's my credit card. And they would come back and be like, oh, it's not working. She's like, oh, it's because it's coming from the bank in Germany. And like, like the stuff doesn't work the same. Like bank systems and stuff, you know, and so she would like always blame it on that.
So then who then they say, okay, this one's
like
on the house.
Sometimes her friends would pay for her. Like there was always somebody that had to like pay her bill.
So then her friends are like, hey,
they were swindled hard, yeah. Well, but they like believed her.
Oh, they believed her.
They believed her 100% until like the very end. Towards the end, you need to watch it, but she ends up like, they go to Morocco, I think it was.
That's a place.
With with like her friends, and she claimed she was going to pay for the whole trip, and then she ends up her wire transfer never came through, so her friend was like, I'll put it on my company card, but you have to pay me back. And of course she never paid her back, so she swindled her friend out of like, I think she had to pay like $50,000 for this. Like,
that's a hell of a Morocco trip.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they stayed at like the top hotel. They went on
That's wild.
Ate the craziest, best food.
So this is a gal who's doing it now. With Bad Vegan, it was a guy that was swindling this gal who has this like elite vegan natural raw restaurant in New York City.
So I only watched a few episodes of that one.
How come you didn't get excited? Because
I had to leave, and you kept watching it without me.
And you don't go back and rewatch things?
I want to. I just haven't.
And so she meets this guy on the internet, actually through Words with Friends. Remember Words with Friends? I guess they met like that.
We used to play that.
I hated playing. I
and
played
you
it because
not that good at it.
No, I played it for you because you loved Words with Friends.
I know.
You were.
We should play.
Yeah, and I was like, I suck. So literally, I had multiple people ask me to play Words with Friends, which is weird. Why would I have a bunch of people like
Everybody played it at one point.
Everybody played it.
It was
yeah.
like right when we met. So what, 2012?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
And so I did it for you, my love
Thank you.
for you.
My love for you
Yeah,
forced me.
So that's how they met. And so it was the same thing, except the guy did it. He's like, hey, but he also had a double thing to it where he also played this like hyper spiritual cult thing. And so he's like, they're testing us like there's the elites that are testing them, and it sounded very culty where they're like, this is not a game that we're playing. We have to show that we are compatible, and this is for the greater good of humanity. He would spin things like that, and so
she fell for it.
She fell for it, which is so dumb. But they also mentioning how they're specifically talking about women, but they said people are more susceptible to fall for stuff like that, who are more like into crystals and astronomy,
already have a little bit of
astrology
that
and all that stuff,
yeah.
where they believe in a lot of these like hyper spiritual existences kind of thing, which I thought was really interesting. So she fell for that, but then he also spun his own story where he's like, he's a former Navy SEAL.
No, he still was.
Oh,
wasn't
he's
he?
still a
Yeah,
Navy SEAL. So
he
he's
would
doing,
like go on these missions
yeah,
and like
he was
tell
doing
her how dangerous
exactly.
it was.
And then at one point he started gaining weight and getting fatter. And he said to her like that he has to do this. This is his meat suit to show for her to prove that she's not with him just for his looks. So it's like, so
he's
basically,
such a good-looking guy.
So basically, some fat guy tricked a cute chick who had money.
I can't even believe that.
Within celebrities, because she hung out with like Alec Baldwin and stuff like that, or at least knew Alec Baldwin, and then swindled, and then I think he
married her, right?
Convinced her to marry him. They
kept asking her for money.
I think like almost like $500,000 or something $1.7 million.
Like overtime.
Overtime, yeah. And she would borrow money from her, high up industry friends, who are and entrepreneurs and investors. And it basically like got to the point where she's in like crappy hotels in Vegas, and they're just gambling. So it turns out this guy is just a loser, fat guy with a gambling problem. And then he convinces, and I don't know how he convinced it, but somehow his dad, who's an alcoholic, he like had him play in on this to convince her. So he basically vouched for him. So she'd be like, is he really a Navy SEAL? He's like, oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
So it's like, of course you're gonna believe
the dad. Yeah. But turns out the dad just got his own gambling and drinking problem.
He wanted the money
too. Paid off. Yeah.
That's wild.
So yeah, she had to go to jail, and he went to jail. Yeah. And
is he still in jail?
I think he only went for like a year or something like that. Nothing long. But there are conspiracy theories about her that, more people who are kind of looking into it, that she maybe wanted to like swindle her business partners. Like it got to the point that he convinced her and his staff, or her staff. He convinced her staff without her permission that from now on he's running the business and the finances go through him, and he's working for her essentially. But basically he kept the money, never paid the staff. All the staff quit. They protested against him. And so he's just taking that money.
Just gambling.
Yeah. And she's with him the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
And he keeps, even when they finally got to be like on the run, when they're like in
what was
Vegas.
he telling her? Why were they on the run?
That this is part of the plan. This is part of the bigger picture. This is part, and so she kind of, the way they portrayed her in the documentary, that towards the very end, which got really, really sad in the end. She looked like one of those like victims that they, like those stories where they'll trap the girl in the basement for 10 years and they're like a sex slave and stuff like that. She was kind of like that. She was kind of dazed, and they were never physical. Like she's like, every time we would stay in hotels, they had 2 separate rooms.
Why?
So she was I guess when it looked like she was so deep into this lie that there's like no way to come out except but just keep being in this like dazed
you just kind of like play into it more and more and more.
But then there's conspiracy theories that she possibly wanted to play into this to screw the investors out of, like, basically get cash out of her company. And but I don't when you already established your name, you're a high,
there'd be no reason to do that if you're already doing so well. Wasn't a restaurant doing really well?
Very well, yeah, within that community of like vegans. It was
Is it still open?
I don't know, possibly, yeah.
Maybe somebody bought it out.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's so what? So let's say the conspiracy theory is not true. What would make her fall so far into a lie that's so blatant?
That's the thing that is weird to me. It'd be one thing if he was like super like affectionate and sweet with her, and she kind of like fell in love with him. I could see that happening more, because that's something probably I would do if somebody came like just randomly I met and they were really sweet and just like knew how to win me over.
You said you do it right now?
No, I'm saying like that's my personality.
That's what she said. Like right now, somebody came. I'm like,
no,
what?
I'd be like, well, because you and I laugh about it every time we watch that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's totally me. I would totally fall for that.
You would take business loans out to.
Yeah, just to help somebody. Be like, they just need it.
Oh,
so I think about that all the time. I'm like, I would probably fall for it if somebody like swept me off my feet first, made me like really care for them and fall in love with them. But the fact that they weren't like really physical, and it didn't seem like she, even the episodes that I watched, she was telling, or her coworkers or the employees were saying that it didn't really ever look like she even cared for him that much, like, or had affection towards him either. So I'm like, why would you?
Well, I kind of wonder if the same thing happens when, because it does make sense. I think in the beginning she did fall in love with him because they were playing these games. Oh, another thing, he convinced her that her dog was her world. Like he convinced her that within this kind of, if she played along to what his spirituality is in the middle of this, that he will make her dog her dog was her world, period. That he would make that dog immortal. And
so maybe that's what she wanted.
So she kind of believed from the romantic. So he was sweet, and then later on, he never hit her or anything like that. But and the only time they seems like they yelled is when she would start these fights of like, obviously brains exploding. You know? But
that's wild. Yeah, I can't. When you watch stuff like that, it's so mind blowing because you're like, how could somebody fall for that and be so just naive? But you hear about it so often, or at least in these documentaries that are coming out. You're like, so many people do it. What's the other one? Tinder Swindler. That's a good one.
That's another one where, and I think all these relationships start with somebody being really nice to somebody, and there's an emotional connection.
I think the biggest initial factor is you gain their trust, because that's what happened with the Tinder Swindler. It wasn't like he swindled them right away. He did this like over a period of time so that they were like friends or boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever. They trusted him.
Yeah.
And that's how he, I could see it working more often.
See, the thing with the Tinder Swindler, it's you break somebody's guard down, and I think it's like a sales technique, right?
Yeah.
You establish rapport with somebody, and then have them trust you, and then you go on a sale with them. And I think with the Tinder Swindler, and this is probably what your Inventing Anna show is, the same characteristic that they share. You have somebody who is hanging out with other people who have money, and through whatever channels, you figure out a way to make it look like you have money. Maybe a big, you take a mortgage on your home. Maybe you get a loan out, credit cards, whatever it is. And then you are generous with that money, with that person, with those people. And so therefore, when that money runs out, those people are generous with you with their money. And the cycle kind of continues like that, except now you have to figure out how to be generous back. So what he did in the Tinder Swindler is he would like fly this girl out on the private jet, so supposedly, and go to all these fancy places. So she's like, wow, he does have money. We're on these private jets. Yeah. And so when he's asking for money, it's the same thing as Inventing Anna. It's like, oh, I'm just waiting on this thing to clear.
This is my wire transfer. But it's like the same. He was like, oh no, his line was, my enemies are after me. I need money. I can't get into my bank account because they froze it. The government, whatever, And
he would send her like pictures of him getting like, beat up.
Yeah. So like what he was doing was using the money from the previous person he swindled to swindle the next person.
Correct.
Get them to trust him and think he's rich, and then ask them for money. So he just kept this cycle going and going.
So you have at that point this weird thing where, I get if it's like a one person thing, right? But when you did that with 3-4 people.
How do you think you're just gonna get away with it?
No,
forever?
Not even that. I don't even care about that. I have zero pity for him, and like, you're gonna go to jail, bucko. This ride's gonna be over. I don't even think he's thinking that. I'm more fascinated about it. How can you have 3 girls consecutively fall for the same lie?
because he knows. I think he got probably so good at it, he could like sniff them out, the naive, the ones that are gonna fall for it. I'm sure he tried. I mean, they never showed it in the documentary, but I'm sure that he tried to do that with other girls that probably didn't fall for it, and he just kept. Well, I'm gonna move on to the next one.
I'm trying to think. Okay, so let's say you and I just met, and like we did 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago.
No, 9.5.
Oh, 9.5, you're right. We're not that far off.
That is hard.
And I really liked you, and you were like, hey, I'm just really struggling, like crying, like I really need this money, and let's say it's money that I didn't have but I could borrow. I'm wondering if you like somebody enough that you're willing to make their worries go away because you think truly after this hump is over, then they won't have this problem.
And that's why they kept giving him money, is because they were like truly probably afraid for his life, first of all, because he made it seem like it wasn't just I need this money really bad. It was like my life is in danger. I need this money.
And you truly have to believe that story 1,000%
to give a person that much money. I
actually heard and I think this could happen because you can get scammed into. Here's a scam that I actually recently heard. One buddy. So this guy flew with his girlfriend to like Mexico or something like that, and somehow these scammers, via this guy's Instagram account or Facebook, found out that they. So there's a couple, a boyfriend girlfriend. The girlfriend went to like Mexico with her friends, and. This, she's posting pictures, right? And somehow these scammers found on the Facebook that they're in a relationship, right? And did some digging. And so they got a hold, and her phone wasn't working or something like that, but they got a hold of him, and they go, hey, we have your girlfriend, who we know is in Mexico, hostage. You better wire transfer us $10,000 if you want to see her again. So he's calling her, and she's not picking up because.
Is that just luck? That her phone wasn't working,
or
did they know?
Oh, I don't know. That part I don't know.
They had to have known.
Either maybe there's a way to block it, or maybe maybe it's not. That's 2 Ocean's 11. I don't know. But
how?
But so fortunately, the guy never sent the money, but he got a hold of her, and everything's fine. But there's a way to be like, because so imagine if you and I are in Greece and. Our phone maybe bad service, and somebody gets a hold of your parents and like, hey, we have your son-in-law, your precious son-in-law, and
just your son-in-law. We don't know where the daughter is. Then, she wasn't important.
And whoever else was with him,
the other person.
You better wire transfer. For mine, maybe like $2.7 million.
2.7 for the man.
Yeah, and 30,000 just
for the girl.
For the girl.
Or just $30.
$30 is fine. Just cover the transaction fee with it. It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
And so you could, if you can't get a hold of that person, you have to believe it, right?
Yeah.
So the belief in that is the difficult.
It is believing and also believing that person's going to pay you back.
Yeah.
Well, at least in this case, the swindler part where he was like, I will pay you back. They froze my account. I can't get to my money.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay.
So I haven't met too many people who like look like they have money, but they really don't have money. Usually they're kind of like right in the middle. Like, well, they'll have like a fancy car and maybe dress real nice, but then you're like, oh, I bet you their credit card bill's huge. So I've met enough of those people, which those are easy to find. But what I've never met is, except for one, I think I'm questioning this because I don't know the backside of the story. To be conclusive, but I do have one acquaintance who used to be a friend of mine, and I'm not going to say their name right now, but maybe I'll say it off the thing.
Off the record.
Off the air. Who, he had the very expensive cars, being a single guy, young, very young, single, fancy cars, fancy condos, in the skyline of downtowns, had a yacht, had a Rolex, all this stuff. And you're like, whoa, like, what kind of money is?
Yeah, what are you doing?
What was his job? What is he, a YouTuber?
Yeah.
No.
What was his job?
He was in finances, and mostly mortgage financing, like refinancing. Yeah. Like mortgage appraisals. That's where it was. And so
what?
Yeah,
that doesn't seem like you. It matches. It lines up.
Well, the thing is, it kind of does and it doesn't. The reason it does is because about 15 years ago, in Seattle, there was this huge like not a raid, but a huge like lawsuit against these two brothers. They're Slavic, and they ran some kind of operation where it's like a huge thing. Like it made like national news. They had this thing where allegedly one is in the business of like appraisal and the other one's like in the business of sale. So there'd be like a false appraisal of a property and a sale. So you'd make the commission and all that stuff. So you basically fluff up properties and you're in with the person that fluffs the properties up. And so
you both are making
correct. So
sneaky.
So I know that he had something along those kind of lines. And so that's why to me I was like, okay, did he now those situations, there's people who are still like, maybe in that situation he's still making the big money, like he still has crazy cash flow, but is it clean or not? Is it something that's going to catch up to him and be like, hey, this is an illegal activity you're doing?
I feel like it always catches up.
Gaming the system.
You know what boggles my mind is, especially watching Inventing Anna and like the Tinder Swindler, the confidence that they have in themselves and trying. It's almost like they're so deep in the lie that they believe it. Remember, we've talked about this before, because the way she carried herself and to other people, it's like, of course I'm rich. How dare you even accuse me of like not having any money? Do you know who I am? Do you know who my father is? Like it would be that level of confidence and like commitment to the lie. And even when she was on trial, for all these like accusations, she refused to go into the courtroom because she was like very into fashion and like looking really good. She refused to go into the courtroom unless like somebody brought her like the clothes she wanted to wear into the...
Oh, because she was in jail, right?
Yeah, she was wearing like the jumpsuit. She was like, I'm not going in unless I get like the clothes I want, like the really expensive clothes.
So did they do it?
No, the judge, because in the series they do bring her something, but it's not like expensive clothes. They just like
is
bring
it like
her
Old Navy.
It was like H&M or something. Yeah. They bring her like clothes to wear, and then she ends up wearing it. But if you read her Wikipedia,
oh, you really dug deep.
No.
Huh?
If you read about her, it actually says during the trial she refused to do that, but eventually the judge told her like, you have to come. So she was forced to come into the...
Wow, the sacrifices she's making.
Man. But it's just funny. Like that was her level of like commitment, is like, I have to look good. I cannot wear these cheap, like whatever prison clothes or even like whatever you give me. I has to be like the best, nicest clothes, or else I'm not doing it.
Well, that's a psychopath, right?
That crazy.
I mean, because the reality is like, if you are just out with a con, like the Tinder Swindler, I think he's just a con man who figured out how to run this con.
Yeah.
I think, but I don't think he ever lost his mind. Like, no, you don't understand. I am this guy. By the way, what do they call him? West Elm something.
I haven't heard
Do you
that.
remember? You haven't? There's like West Elm. There's like a male name, and then like West Elm. I don't know. But
What's
I thought
his name? What's his name? Remember?
Apparently he was supposed to. He was like a furniture designer for West Elm or something like that.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Yeah, I don't know, but like I don't know if that's the same person or a different person. But anywho, so that the Tinder Swindler did lose his mind.
And he still claims that he's innocent.
Yeah, he's innocent, but he doesn't like keep like, and he just figure as a way to continue this thing, right? Like versus this person is so committed to like, no.
And I think she wanted to like be famous. I think that was her end goal. Is to. It didn't matter what it took. She wanted to be famous and to be known. Yeah. And so even now, like, she has tons of followers because people want to know like what she's up to. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So, and she will still like, she let Netflix bought out her rights to her story in order to make this series. So she let them. They paid her.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They paid her to make this series. So she approved of it. So she knew like what everything, you know.
Oh, by the way, I bet you it was a couple of $1 million they should get from it.
No, it was $300,000.
What?
Because first of all, she doesn't have any money, and so of course she's gonna take it. I think she wanted them to do a documentary, but they didn't pay her a lot of money. Yeah, that's not a lot.
It was like $300,000 for her?
And almost all of it went to paying back all this everybody she owed. I think she ended up making like $20,000.
Really? Well, she only owed. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Well, the only reason I'm so shocked,
officially she only owed that much.
The only reason I'm shocked that she didn't get a couple of million out of it, because you know me, I'm fascinated with the world of like stand-up comedians, and when they do a show, when they do a special and Netflix buys them out,
It's because they're big already.
but
yeah.
so like one, I know he you know, he made like $1 million.
Yeah.
He got $1 million.
Well, that makes more sense because it's like
Netflix.
already a comedian, right? That's
Right.
established. I think I'm
Oh,
sure
because
they
they didn't know if she's gonna.
Yeah.
They didn't know
I'm
if
sure
it's
they
gonna be a flop.
presented it. Yeah. And I'm sure they presented it like, we'll give you this much money, and you get to be famous, or you don't get this made about you, and you don't get any money, and people are just gonna always talk about you in a negative light. I mean, they did. There's this whole story about her in the series, but they didn't make her out to be like as much of a villain as when you read about her. And so I think she liked probably that.
Where are you reading about her?
Well, on the news.
Is
and
this,
like all
is
the
this a
articles.
recent thing that she's on the news?
Yeah.
Or is this only because the show is?
No,
is
I mean, this is in the last couple of years that this happened.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And she's in prison right now because so she got like 5 years or something. They let her out after 18 months. And then 8 weeks later, she got put back into prison because her visa expired.
Oh, traveling visa.
Isn't that crazy? It's like of all the things, like you're out, you did your time. Now I think they want to deport her.
Poor girl. She just wants to be rich and famous.
I know. She was supposed to make it in America, not the hard and way. It's the easy way.
It makes more sense. There's people like you and I were looking at a particular local Instagram account yesterday. Then this chick is like, she is a life coach. She's a business coach. That's what she is. And
Kelly Kapoor, the business bitch.
The business bitch. And so this girl's like does not have that many followers. Like, I mean, enough for to be an influencer. She's like, I think 14,000 on Instagram. But she's constantly saying how like, you know, she's doing like TikToks like, you know, coach the client through this. Now they're making, you know, 6 figures a month in sales. And she's showing all this stuff, but she's got no, like, it's like another form of swindler because you have no services you're providing except for...
It's so vague.
It's so vague where you could tell people, hey, you need to scale, you need to diversify, you need to have systems and orders in place, you need to stretch. Like you can be vague like that, which is in every business book out there, but to say I'm a coach where you haven't built any Fortune 500 companies or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't
like,
get it.
How do you say, yeah.
Mark Cuban can get online or can start an Instagram account saying I'm a coach and everybody's like, yeah, because you have many successful businesses.
Yes.
When a person just says,
behind his
yeah,
name.
I've just read some books and I'm going to be, which I can't talk too much smack about it because technically that's what I did. Like I started a YouTube channel and I showed people how to build, you know, remodel the homes while not having professional training. So I'm like self-made, I guess, in the sense of like self-made information. But when somebody doesn't have a tangible thing, but they just say like...
What's weird to me is like when it's so vague, you're like, what do you actually do?
Correct.
And I've seen that a few times on Instagram where people are like, I will help you grow and become in control of your business and like be your own, the CEO of your life. Is that what you're talking about?
CEO of your life.
But it's like, they never like... I was always just, I guess, confused on, well, what is it that you actually do? Do you like sit down and give them like a process and here's step-by-step guide on how to grow your business? Because everybody has different businesses. Like one could be sales, one is like a service you're providing, one is, you know, like you can't be that vague.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And also, if you have that much information about it, and you feel like it's a proven method that people should pay you for it, well, no, then why don't you start a business?
I know.
And make it so successful.
I know.
And then not...
Or multiple.
And not worry spending your time getting pennies from other people for that advice.
Yeah. It's very interesting to me because I think this is probably the reason why it works is because they spin it a certain way that people are like, "Ooh, I'm interested." But
They
really,
say
like,
they say hot keywords. That's what they say.
Yes, just say your marketing. What is it, like social media marketing
advisor? Yeah,
advisor.
But it's the same people who will reach out and be like, "Hey, let us help you grow your Instagram following," and then you'll click on their thing and they have like 5,000 followers, and you go,
"Wait a second,
hey, help yourself grow."
Yeah, like that is interesting. Like, are you helping so many people that you don't have time for your own profile? If you're so good at it, wouldn't you have more?
I think what they're banking, this is me just shooting from the hip, is what I wonder if they're going, okay, so we're going to take over your account, air quotes, and they're going to post some stuff, sure. But I think it's simultaneously they're going to buy bots and buy likes to show to you that it's actually working.
It's working,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get screwed over because Instagram don't like that.
Don't like that. And nothing is more embarrassing when you have a following and you work with a brand or something like that, and they go, you know, hey, use this link so we can get sales, and then you see that like nobody bought it, or like 5 people bought out of 100,000 followers or something, and you're like, oh, you have a fake following, hombre.
Nobody's,
You're a bad hombre, you know.
You fake.
Yeah, so people are a bunch of scoundrels and a bunch
of swindlers out there. But people are smart. That's the thing.
Some people are smart. Some people are dumb.
Not, yeah, that's
Imagine
true.
Some people are as smart as they are dumb.
The fact that people can get away with it is, I think, a lot of luck.
Yeah.
But also the fact that they even thought of this to do and that they would get away with it, that's bold.
I'm more fascinated because not that I know these girls on the Tinder Swindler, but based off of when you see somebody in a documentary, the way they present themselves, they are somewhat smart, you know, people. Like they're not like ditzy. They're eloquent. They're put together.
That's why it boggles my mind. Is like that gal took out multiple credit cards to pay him.
Yeah, but by the way, which by the end she still had to pay. She didn't get it forgiven. She didn't get forgiven.
That's crazy. So did she send him credit cards? I'm trying to remember because she took out credit cards in her name.
Yeah, and then
she put his name on it, right? And like then gave it to him.
With the credit cards?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think there's one that went under his name.
Yeah. Because I'm like, how else would he be able to use it? Because she didn't like give him cash. She was taking out.
Yeah. Well, she also did give him cash
in the beginning. Yeah. But then she ended up like just opening more and more and more credit cards.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
It's wild, man. Bunch of silly gooses out there.
Just people.
We need to get the Sherlock chicks on this.
The Sherlock chicks. We'll solve the case. We'll crack the.
Hey, talk to your female compadres about what's the deal with these girls. See if you guys can get into.
What?
The female psyche.
About what?
Well, why these girls are so foolish and believing.
Fooled?
Yeah.
I can't tell ya.
Bring it up
unless it happens. Yeah.
Bring it up in the next book club.
Love will make you do crazy things.
Stupid stuff for sure.
Yeah.
It's been fun. What did we learn? People are crazy. And some people just need to get a little bit stronger head on their
don't have money, just ask if they take wire transfers. Most of the time it will work.
That's great advice. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Episode 81. Lots of fun. Lots of giggles. Boy, did we have lots of giggles.
Just so fun.
Don't get fooled by anybody, especially the Prince of Nigeria or the Tinder Swindler.
Stay safe out there, people.
Love, peace, hair grease. Bye.
Bye.